let me start. First off, thanks everybody for being here. Every time I go through clemency, it's always a very difficult. It's always you try to understand the victim and understand the applicant and understand what you should do for Floridians. And these cases are always difficult, and so it's probably the most draining day. Of course, it didn't help that I just got back from Israel and didn't get much sleep last night. But the positive today is, as you know, the unemployment numbers. Now we've generated 134,800 private sector jobs, and net is 120,200 jobs. So clearly we have turned the corner. I get a basic report card once a month, the third Friday of every month, and we're putting a lot of effort into, as you know, our workforce boards to try to make sure we're filling all the open jobs and making sure that individuals have the opportunity to get a job in our state. So that's a real positive. Last night I had the opportunity to talk to a number of students. I went out twice. I think the first time was about 10:30 or so, and talked to them, listened to them about what their concerns are. As you know, yesterday I talked to President Ammons and said that I thought it was in his best interest, in the school's best interest, if he stepped aside during the investigation. And I called the chairman of the board of the trustees of FAMU and said the same thing. Last night when I spoke to the students, most of it was that it was about James, their president, but they had some other questions. They asked if there was any movement afoot to try to merge FAMU and FSU, and I have not. And I told them last night, and I've never heard that. No one's ever talked to me about that. And for me, the most important thing is we have a university, FAMU, that has a worldwide reputation, and right now it's going through tough times with the young lady that ended up in the hospital, and with Robert Champion that died after the hazing, it appears. We also, when FDLE got in there, they have uncovered some other financial irregularities. So I think it's appropriate that the President step aside just to make sure everybody's comfortable that the investigation everybody's cooperating, it's transparent, so we get the FAMU back on track to continue to fulfill its mission that the students, the parents, the alumni respect. So I'll be glad to answer any questions anybody has.
Well, so the students last night seemed to express, and they again this morning, that why not let the board deal with it? Why they sort of see you as meddling in this?
Well, the board is clearly going to, as you know, when I spoke to Solomon Badger, the chairman, he said that he was already in the process of calling a board meeting, and so the board is going to, take it up. But I think, as governor of the state, this is something that is very important to me. Over time, I appoint, along with the Board of Governors, the board. I care about what happens to FAMU. It's important to our state. It's important to the country, and I want to make sure that I let people know what I believe, because I think it's the right thing for James Ammons, the president. I think it's the right thing for FAMU, and I think it's the right thing for the state.
And what will that meeting this afternoon accomplish?
Well, I'm going to listen to the president. I had a good conversation with him yesterday. He asked me, as part of that, if he did step aside, if it was my goal that he not come back, and I said no, it's not my goal. I said my goal is to make sure that everyone is comfortable that the investigation that the university is going through is investigation that everybody feels comfortable that it's fair and open and people are cooperating. And if he has had no involvement, if there's anything that he couldn't have done a better job, he ought to be back there.
So. Governor Scott, you say that you care about FAMU, but this year and this year alone, you've made $1 million cuts to education. How can you say that you care about an institution, but you're making cuts to one of the departments that don't receive funds as it is?
Well, if you look at when I came into office last year, we were looking at a 3.4 billion plus deficit. So my job was to make sure that we balance our budget. We know that we cannot continue to borrow money and just every year borrow more and more money, because eventually somebody has to pay that back. So in last year's session, we made tough choices. As you know, I've gone through and I sent a letter to all the university presidents in October, because and basically it goes like this. I want to make sure, and I was elected to make sure, that whether it's money being spent on K through 12, it's money being spent on economic development, it's money being spent on higher ed, that money is spent as efficiently and effectively as possible. And so when I think about our universities, what I've asked them is, what's the process? I would think, the way I would think about my job, if I was a university president, I'd say, okay, so I want students to come to my institution and I want them to get a job. So the first question was, okay, so what's the process to understand where the jobs are? And then how are we choosing our programs that our universities put out? How are we educating our students about what the job opportunities are? Because I know about my life. I went to school to get a job. I needed a job. And I wanted a better job. A lot of the first jobs didn't pay a lot, and I wanted a better job. So getting a university education, getting a law degree, allowed me to do that. So in this job, my job is basically to allocate dollars as well as I can and make sure those dollars are spent as efficiently and effectively as possible.
Governor, the financial irregularity that you talked about that's been touched on by the FDLE, does that go beyond, does that involve the band, and does it involve President Ammon's oversight of the school and that money?
It's an investigation, so I think the appropriate thing is to allow the investigation to proceed, allow the information to come out in a logical manner, and that's what I'm going to rely on FDLE to do that.
Does it raise questions in your mind though about President Ammon's oversight?
Well, what it says to me is, I'm more interested in having an environment where everyone feels comfortable that the way the investigation is being handled is proper, and that's more what my focus is.
To follow up on that, there's been really a pretty decent history of some financial issues over at FAMU. Will Dr. Ammons have to pay the price for all that went on prior to, or will this investigation be kind of a snapshot? Well,
I think that we'll see what happens with the investigation, what the issues are, and I mean that'll tell us. I'm hopeful that President Ammons had no involvement. There was nothing that he could do to. If there are irregularities, there's nothing he could do about it.
Last night you asked FAMU SGA President Breonna Love to come into your home, and you also had Senator Al Lawson in there. And you told them the reason you made this recommendation was because of reports from the FDLE investigation and other things that you knew about that will come out in the future. What are those other things that will come out in the future?
They'll come out when the FDLE does their report. And
that's what you were referring to? You wasn't referring to any insight that you have with FAMU or anything else?
I'm relying on the fact that I want there to be a thorough investigation. I wanted to be everyone to feel comfortable that it was it's transparent, people are cooperative, and that's what my focus is.
Do you feel that if they